awkward.
If it don't take my clothes with me.
Don't feel the need to talk into the mics. They're catching, they're amplifying. So they're just there. We'll be on either side. I'm kind of away, so you're not covered.
Okay.
Okay, so I will. If it comes, I have to break it down.
See what you just did? I want you to do that again when we finish.
Where did you get your sneakers? Where did you get your sneakers?
My sneakers. I had for a little while. You know what? Honestly, I think it was like Ross.
They are so
Ross is the bomb.
You know, those random finds, and now I'm trying to find them in other colors on Puma's website.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're Pumas. Yes, they're Pumas. They were only like $13.
Sorry.
But hi, I'm Tamara Smith. Thank you for being here today. I know why the room is packed because look at this panel. So, just a couple of housekeeping things. When the stream starts, that does not change much for you. It just means that now people who are not here in person will be able to watch online on our Facebook page and on our YouTube page as well. So what you can do is you can share that link. If anybody's like, man, I couldn't make it, or maybe they're stuck at work right now or something like that, you can share the link on your social media and make sure that they have a chance to watch as well. It will also live on the page after it's over, so it can be watched later on as well, because I know a lot of gems will be dropped today, and you'll want to rewatch it later on. Okay, is there anything else you want to do before we go live?
I think we're good.
All right, we're going to go live in just a moment. And my husband, the other half of TV Media, is here today. His name is Ray, also DJ Ray. Yes, he's been a DJ for about 20 years in this area. And there he is, shameless plug. Feed our children. Yay.
Amen.
We'll be ready to go live in just a moment. All right.
We just need one pen. Oh, you want the love of pen?
We need a pen.
I'm a geek and a nerd.
There's a pen in the bedroom. I have a pen. Oh, you have Pam has a pen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Pam got good pens. It's a good pen. Thank you.
I
know.
Hello, everybody joining us online. I know you hear you're rumbling to see us talking. We are getting ready to start our panel discussion here, women and financial well-being. I know we hear a lot about self-care as women. They're like, take care of yourselves, and I'm a big advocate for that. But today we're talking about financial well-being, and we're glad you're joining us. If you're joining us online, on Facebook, or on our YouTube page, remember that this will live here. You can share it with everyone after it is over. So are we excited about today?
Yeah. Well, I'll just say hi to everybody and welcome you. We are so very glad you're here. So I'm Barbara Westcott. I'm the founder of Women Wednesdays. What is Women Wednesdays? We're all about building a collaborative community of women that help each other succeed. But in addition to building our collaborative community, we then go on to collaborate with others. So collaborating with the Oasis Center for Women and Girls. Yay! On the status of women and girls. Wednesdays with partners like IFA, Minority Chamber, with TCC Workforce Development. I mean, the exponential power of collaborating with other people and then collaborating with other organizations. So we just have a series of programs to grow visibility, knowledge, and connectivity of women, just so we thrive. And even what we're going to talk about today, that's all going to be possible because we're all going to solve these problems together. So Robin, take it away. Robin's our membership coordinator.
Yes, I'm Robin Yeaman. I'm your membership coordinator. Outside of Women Wednesdays, I work for Joyce Publishing. We publish AdMax and Home Yard magazine. Here, if you see the value of these programs and you want to support us, membership is $9 a month or $89 a year. Or you can give us a sponsorship, whatever you like. The website is womenwednesdays.com, and if you'd like to email me, it's members@womenwednesdays.com. Let me know if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. What I think what we're going to do now is we're going to get started with probably most everybody knows our panel ministers, but we're just going to kick it off and let them each tell us a little bit about themselves before we dive into what is it? It's Financial Literacy Month. So let's start off with you, Christic.
Hey y'all, I'm Christic Henry. My day job is broker and president of Kingdom First Realty, which is a full service real estate company from the capital to the coast, where we do property management, we do consulting, and we also do listing and sales of real estate for investors, owners, and other folk. Now, the other thing I do is I am a community nerd. So I find myself on a whole lot of different fronts, dealing with public policy, dealing with basically political issues that impact regular people. And so today's conversation is really going to be seasoned with a lot of that information. And hopefully together with your input, we can come up with some strategies to move forward.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Bartlett. I work for A&B Wealth out of Thomasville, Georgia, but retired from SunTrust after 23 years, and I've always been in banking and finance. And I'm a registered investment advisor and have my brokerage licenses to do investments. So that's what I'm here for. Although I'm a big believer in budgeting and saving, and having a banking background will really, I'm able to round out that knowledge. So, and I'm just here to talk to you all and give you guys some of the experience that I have and also learn from you. So thank you.
Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Moore, Vice President for Workforce Innovation at Tallahassee Community College. So in addition to the TCC piece, I think most people will connect with the fact that I've been talking workforce development and education for a while, because we know that's the vehicle really to when we talk about prosperity and closing the gap. So it's very nice to be here with everyone.
Yeah, and can I just add to
Sure.
that? So Kim and I, and along with Commissioner Richardson,
Yes.
I'd like to welcome him. But we're going to be together again next
week.
So, yeah, we're going to be doing an event called Trades Work, and it's all about increasing opportunities for women and girls in the skilled trades. So why would that matter? There are massive shortages of workers in the skilled trades and construction, and we have these incredible places here in our town, TCC Workforce Development, to get training and to get high-paying jobs. And just imagine what that can do for women and
Absolutely.
families and our community as a whole. It just is unbelievable. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for what we're doing next week as well. And thank you, Commissioner Richardson, for being here as well. So you want to kick off with our first question here tomorrow?
I sure will, and I don't think I said, but I'm Tamara Smith. And I'm happy to be a part of the Women Wednesdays team. I'm helping produce the media and the speaker series and bringing speakers and information to you anywhere you are. And we're going to kick off today with a few questions. We have to do this because we always want our conversations to keep going. So if you want to comment wherever you are, you can go ahead and put your questions, comments. If you just want to say, yay, put that in there. If you have a question about financial well-being, put that in there as well. And we will try our best to address all of those as well. But let's start with just the simplest of questions today. Define financial literacy and why it matters.
And who would you like?
And we can start with you, Kim.
Yeah, but also whoever feels most like they want to answer that question.
I think we'll probably each want to chime in on that. But when I think about financial literacy, is just not only knowing what the resources are, but knowing how to use and act on them. Because again, we always talk about access and opportunity, but again, they go hand in hand. So the financial literacy piece, what does it mean to me where I am, and not just for the moment with regard to, managing your expenses, but literally where is it that I want to be? So I think it's not only short-term, but long-term.
For us, when we think of financial literacy, we think of budgeting, saving, investing, and debt. Debt's a huge piece of almost everybody's financial life these days. And so
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
there's some good debt. Let me put up an argument for some good debt.
Investments.
Home loans are a great place to put your money. But you want to be careful with debt, of course. But I think that's to kind of dovetail on what Kim was saying. Financial literacy now gives you financial security later. And I think that's the piece that is most important. So just having that knowledge, having the knowledge that you can use appropriately will benefit you tremendously long-term.
Yeah, I agree with both. I think that, however, due to economic events as of late, I go back to the Great Recession of 2007. I go back to some of the micro recessions we've had since then. I think of, the monetary policy that happens on a national level mandates a level of financial understanding, right? Which is really what financial literacy is. It's not this esoteric term that belongs to industry. It is about understanding your finances and really not just understanding your finances, but understanding how public policy impacts your ability to save, to maximize return on your savings, how at risk you are to the laws that govern our land in regards to you being able to be financially sustainable. So I think it's a two-pronged conversation. It's you having enough financial understanding to be able to make the proper moves for yourself personally, but also paying attention to see the impact that decisions others make on your financial securities are super important, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, and I want to chime in. I mean, we're talking about financial literacy and women's well-being. So what can we sort of say about pay inequity, but then also gender inequity in the workforce? So who wants to start with that? And what can we do about it?
So I'll start with fast facts on that, coming off of a whole nother conversation about that. Right. First of all, if you can believe it, Florida is one of the top states for equity for women in pay. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Okay, basically,
We're trying to soak that
okay,
in.
let's
Really?
Yeah. What does that mean? Okay, that doesn't mean that we're equal and on par. That just means we're less unequal. Okay, it's less unequal. Let's bring it back. Okay, now, so I think that in our approach to conversations about gender inequity, particularly in pay, and the reason why it's not a conversation because we just think we want to think about all the injustices that women suffer and suffrage. If you do a job, you should get the same somebody else would get for that job. If somebody's doing it for $20 and you do it well, you should get $20. You should not get 15 because you're a woman, or he shouldn't get 20 because he's a man and a head of household, especially when we get to some of these fast facts about the growth of women as heads of households, right? And so when we talk about, Kelly laughing, when we talk about this, it's less about, historic suffrage and more about current justice, right? So I think we need to really hammer that in. It ain't about, I want to make that. It's, look, I need my money. I got to feed kids. I got to do this. I got to do that. So when we're talking about it, Florida is at 34% gap between men's incomes and women's incomes. Wow. I know.
And that's less unequal.
That's less unequal. Like that's an accomplishment, right? But as we look at gender issues, I think that as women, we need to understand the issues universally. And we don't need to get caught up on one polarized conversation about it, because it really is a holistic picture of what, not just what I'm due, but what is just, right? So as we continue to have this conversation, have that mindset about pay inequality. It ain't about I just want to get paid. I need my money, all right? And I should get it.
Probably probably a couple of things. Yeah, now I like the now with the exclamation mark. But a couple of things with that. We also have to position ourselves to message and know our worth, know your value, what you're bringing to the table, and also to be able to communicate that. Not of them from an emotional standpoint, but with the facts of what I bring to the table. And I think the other piece of it is think about also the number and types of jobs that women are most oftentimes attracted to. So how do we turn the table on that to look at those jobs that, yes, that would allow us to capitalize on the skills that you have, but go in a different direction, maximize your potential and earn a higher wage. So yeah, some of it is what I would call self-imposed, some others might impose, but then there's this opportunity that you have to know your worth, know your value, and be able to communicate that well. Yeah.
I think what Kim said is key. I think lots of times women are not as willing to negotiate. I think we're a little bit more willing to say, okay, yeah, that's the offering salary that you're giving me to start. Great. And maybe you should say I need 5,000 more, because then when you get your next raise and it's 2%, it's 2% of that 5,000 more. And it just kind of snowballs and keeps growing. So I think those are some things we can do. I think as women, we don't always change jobs enough either. I think sometimes I can't change jobs. I need the financial security I have.
Or what will others think? I'm a job hopper. And in this environment, I mean, again, and just knowing that, having a network and, really building off of what others are sharing with you, that listen, you can turn the script on that. It's a new day and new demand, and why not be able to branch out and use your experiences in other places.
And before we leave this conversation, I want to re-emphasize what you just said, because there are two things called entrepreneurship, which everybody think is sexy. How many of y'all entrepreneurs?
And it's a good time.
Okay.
It's fun. Wake up when you want.
It's this super sexy term of the liberated woman who gets to own her job instead of being employed. But anyway, and then you have the entrepreneur, right? You have the person that knows their worth, that knows their value, that have a trajectory or being mentored to know their worth and know how to ascend into the ranks of being able to have a more valuable realization of their employment. Ain't nothing wrong with hopping, and ain't nothing wrong with staying, as long as you making what you're worth. All right. And I think that you have to adhere to women and people who are going to champion you to say, look, this is what you're doing. This is what this is worth on the marketplace, and be aware of your marketable worth in your position. Do you know how much what you're doing is worth right now?
I actually want to have someone come speak to that.
Yes.
And I think if there are people we can get that kind of say in these roles, you should, and it would be helpful to know that, because people do that for a living.
And I know, I promise I'm going to let everybody get off this one, but it's such a good question that you're on right now.
Yeah.
Also think about it. Women oftentimes take on a nurturing role, even in the job. Let me train, let me help this new manager or supervisor that's coming in. Let me train you your job because I've seen it. Never thinking about really, why aren't you applying for that job? If you can train 5 times, you can certainly do the job, right? So really knowing your work. Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and I think that being armed with information kind of helps you see yourself in that new lens, right? Because you may not see yourself in that role that you're training for. But then I think that having conversations like this in a forum like this do you think that that would help build the confidence that they're talking about? Like, yes, I do know my value. Now, are there other resources that can kind of help with that information and build that confidence? Giving us the information that we need to be ready to have those conversations, negotiate, know our value?
So there are. I mean, if you go online and you talk about negotiation of pay rate, negotiation of pay raise, how to approach your market value of worth, you're looking at yourself as a commodity, as an asset, right? You're looking at the skills, you're looking at the training, you're looking at the capabilities, you're looking at the earned wisdom, right? You're looking at the things that you have overcome, and you're saying, based upon my experience in this space and years, this is what, and they actually have measurements. Like, you can go in and you can calculate your measurements. In fact, I'll get that to you so that you can see what it's worth. If you can do it for a house, you can do it for you. All right. See what your current position worth. And there's no other greater resource to find out actually about your current worth in terms of your capability than going on the employment database. And Kim can probably speak way more to that, and finding what other positions in your space are paying.
Yeah, because when I think about it, I mean, first, remember, as Christic has talked about and others, you are the CEO of you, and invest in yourself early and often. So learn new things. Don't settle for where you are. Think about where you want to be. And when you get those skills, oftentimes folks will only look at their resume when they're mad with the boss, or when you're like, okay, it's 10 years, it's anniversary, it's time to change. You should look at your resume, your CV, whatever you're carrying, early and often, updating your skills, updating your value points and experience. That's your investment in your future. And then tell your story.
Mhm.
Make sure it's known, whether it's in the job or whether it's LinkedIn is your place. Tell your story. You are the CEO of you. And when you do that, yeah, there are places that can validate it. You can go online and look at what the going rate is. But again, I promise you that there will be skills that you've gotten along the way and experiences that are unmatched. You need to know what that means. And it means a lot in this market.
And I think something, I'll just say this, then we'll go to you, Julie. I think something we can totally do. So has anybody been to our pitch thing with Heidi Otway? To taught people how to give a 30-second pitch. Yeah. We should also do just creating that pitch to ask for a raise.
Yeah.
Just sometimes just practicing it and having an outline, like this is a good way to go about it. We could just do that. So let's put that on the schedule next year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And remember, the speaker series is open to you. If you think you have something to share with us at Women Wednesdays and you want to share it with the community because you've gained this expertise, you have this knowledge, and you want to share it with others so we can also build, you can be a part of the speaker series. Just email speakers@womenwednesdays.com.
But a lot of people don't realize, you want to be a speaker?
Yeah, it's not an exclusive club. Like a lot of things feel. Really, just email us and we will talk through that process with you. But we're going to swing a little bit to another topic, and that is housing affordability. Now, I know that's a big topic, housing affordability and inflation. But how do those issues kind of compound the inequities and the gender inequality in the workplace when we're talking about pay and finances and value?
You want to tap that one first?
So,
Madam, yeah.
She's like, we only have this much time.
okay,
Right?
Yeah.
I do want to say that we only have this much time. All right. Let me just throw a couple of really fast facts out there. The first fact is that the average home sale price in Leon County as of this morning is $257,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that's the highs and the lows all truncated together. All right. That's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in Leon County. If I break it out into quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4, you will seriously see the differentialities of affordability within Tallahassee. You will see where the distribution of wealth is happening. The good news, because I always like to follow up with good news, is that we have seen incremental increases in value of homes across quadrants, right? Why is that important? The home is the single most source of wealth that you're probably going, unless you get a windfall from granddaddy, grandmama, or somebody you don't know, right? That is probably where you're going to build your base of wealth. You're going to take that wealth and hopefully buy an investment property that's going to build passive. Management ain't passive, but anyway, you're going to take that and build wealth, right? So real estate is that source. Okay, so we understand that. However, the average rental here, can anybody shoot me a guess of what they think the average rent is in Leon County?
$1,200.
It's between $1,200 and $1,300. $1,257 is about where it's at. Okay, why is that important? Because if you're looking for somewhere to stay, the rubric she would probably tell you, Kathy, is that you don't want to spend more than 30% of your income on your housing expenses, right? Well,
It's a guideline.
it's a guideline, but most folks in Leon County spend upwards of 45 to 50% of their income on housing expense. Why is that important? Because now you still got to eat. You still got to send the kids to daycare, childcare, experiential. You still got to pay for school trips. You still got to pay for life insurance. You still have life to pay for. So if 50% of that is being eaten up in a rental expense per month, that you will never yield a return on, right? As opposed to if you took that same $1,200, $1,300 and you owned a home, that every month you paid your rent, you have a return on that investment. Why is this important to this conversation? Women are exposed more disproportionately to this. Only 16% of, there are 16% of women who are heads of households here in Leon County. Think about that. 16% of women. If you look, it's 50, Leon County got a lot of women. It's 52.6% women, all right? So if you look at, now it's all kind of women, babies, churn, all women, but women, right? And so if you're looking at it from that perspective and you're looking at the base of wealth for women, real estate is where it needs to be. Now, I'm going to share some really great news on the national front, right? Because women actually are killing it in home ownership. Single women outpace men in 32.5% of households headed by women owned homes in the 1990s. Right now, that percentage literally is 61.2%. Yeah, pat yourself on the back. All right. But keep in mind, as we're looking at this from an economic security standpoint, very vulnerable to decisions on public policy, very vulnerable to monetary policy, very vulnerable to a lot of things that are outside of our control. But the great thing about it is that if you have a mortgage, you can work with your bank to make sure and maintain your homestead, as opposed to being in a rental where there's not a lot of protection. So I think that's why this is important. Understanding the difference, understanding the benefits, and really looking at home ownership more as securitizing an asset that you can build safety financially in, and moving forward from there in other spaces.
Probably 2 points on that really quickly. The first one being, I would question, how are the women doing it? Because I know a lot of the folks that I end up seeing at TCC or even in my other space, they're working 1, 2, 3 jobs, trying to prop that up in order to live out that dream of home ownership. So if there's anything that we can do in the way of empowering, it is not just to talk about how you get that home, but how do you keep it? And what are some of those tips? And that means, again, growing you, so that you're not, yes, it's great to be loyal. President Murdoch, it's great to be loyal. They're at TCC. But, you've got to be thinking about the future of you and what that means. So it's great to say that I've been somewhere for 12 years, but what does that mean with regard to security? It's one thing you work 8 to 5, and then on the weekends, you got to go and find another job. It's not building that, the dream becomes a nightmare. And so how do we look at that in this space and make sure that you have the resources and tools that you need?
Well, I was going to say banking is a huge part of financial literacy. And that's one of the things I want to make sure we touched upon. I don't know if you, Kathy, if you want to jump on that, or because I think you had mentioned being unbanked. If you can explain what that is.
Sure. And she also commented on the guidelines. Like, that is a guideline. And I know, for us at One More Child, I'm an entrepreneur. I work at One More Child, and we have a single moms program, and a big part of that program is that financial literacy. But there's different methods and ways to think about, they come to our program thinking, I can't do this right now. I'm a single mom. I don't make that much. But Kathy, along with you talked about, there's guidelines to how you think about your finances, and how does being unbanked kind of frame the way you think about your finances, or being banked frame the way you think about it?
There are so the unbanked, let's define it real quick. The unbanked are people who don't have a transaction account anywhere. They don't have a credit card. They don't have a savings account even. They don't have a transaction account at a financial institution. And that is huge. My husband and I have some rental properties that we've invested in and own, and we have people that pay us cash because that's the only option they have. And so I think there is definitely a need to concentrate on what you can do for those people. And there's a lot of reasons for it. Sometimes it's their own fault. Sometimes they've had an account, haven't managed it well, and they're just not eligible. And those are the people that time helps, but they need to probably get a secured credit card. That requires $500 to put in a savings account to get that secured credit card. So you can see kind of the spiral that can occur. And for unbanked people, that's their key to the financial system. They need a transaction account to get into the financial system, build credit, build a savings. So it's really a concern for me personally, and just, what I see in the community. I don't think there's an easy answer to that. Single moms are the biggest group that are unbanked. So my heart really goes out to them. That's a huge problem. And there's probably some people in the audience who are unbanked. And that's just something that we need to focus on. It's not an easy fix, and that is a concern. There's no just, okay, and it's not even really a public policy thing that you can say, okay, now we're going to have savings accounts for everybody. There are some good things happening as far as the public policy front goes. EBT cards, food stamps, that's on a card now. People know how to use those. And so they learn kind of what a transaction is and how the system works, but getting them into that system is the hurdle.
That's right.
So I don't know if that kind of helps you guys. Patricia's here too. She's been in banking all her life. We've known each other. Our sons went to Hawks Rise together, and I'm sure she bumps into it all the time too. And what you can do for those people is just really kind of tough. It just really is. So I wish there was an easy answer.
We did have someone here, and I can't remember who it was. Maybe you remember. This was more at the beginning of Women Wednesdays, but she had a business helping people restore their credit. Do you remember that, anybody? But what do you think about something like that?
It's just old fashioned. You got to kind of get that secured credit card. You can build credit quickly though. I will tell you that. You can build credit very quickly if you can get into the system. For example, my son, who's 25, he had a credit score. Of course, we were on his credit card with him. And he had a credit score like within 3 months of having a credit card.
Wow.
And then it's scary, the mail that arrived at our house offering him more credit.
Immediately.
Immediately.
But I think there are people, if you have gotten into bad credit, I think there's some people with some knowledge and skills can help you back out of that and get, redirect and get on better credit.
Yeah.
Let me say one thing though on that. And I don't even know who you were talking to, but there are a lot of credit fix scams out there. And just be aware of that too.
So with you saying that, if someone is listening and they are unbanked and they're thinking that they need to be at a certain benchmark before they can kind of join that a bank, what determines or what is the first step for them to kind of move towards?
Great question. Something that most people can't overcome. So, I just want to say that and hopefully, yes.
And I know Pat, I got, so.
Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, Pat.
Okay, so,
Julia,
thank you for this opportunity.
Sure.
You did say something that's very key, and credit unions are good about that, but I do just also want to give a plug to banks because there are a lot of banks now who are offering free checking accounts, no minimum balance, no monthly service charges. And there are banks who are promoting financial literacy as well.
Definitely.
Then speaking to the unbanked, the Capital City Chamber has launched a program called Bank On Tallahassee.
I did not know that. Good to know.
Program. They are partnering with banks and credit unions and nonprofit organizations to identify the unbanked population of Tallahassee and provide financial literacy opportunities for them to open accounts, free tax preparation, you name it. So if you will Google Bank On Tallahassee, there are resources there. Katrina Tuggerson is the president of that organization. Our bank is a part of that organization as well as several other banks in our community. So just want you to know that there is a solution out there to address that need.
Yeah, and we can
Thank
share
you.
that information. Because I think you're right, that's a great program.
What I have found, I'm a business owner, 30 years in business, investments all over. And people fall in trap to, Cash App and Venmo, and they don't know how to even access or use those means of money. Oh, I've got to load up my car. You know, and then they go take money from their food and put it on the car, they can't pay their rent. And, you know, you have to teach these young, mainly young people and women that I come across that are doing these transactions, and they're not aware of what it costs them to do. And then they lose their car, they lose their account, someone hacked into it. And it's just a spiraling effect. So a one bank of Capital City, that program has really opened up. As a board member, it has really opened up the unbanked to the resources that are there.
I think we have to be mindful because, again, the issue, and I believe the root is when you talk about income, and that is not increasing. Though I support credit unions, I support banks, but I also believe it opens the door that if you're living check to check and you got a checkbook and that you got your light bill, and though it's not there, and you got to make a decision. So really, it's how do we help to increase your income potential so that when life happens, there is a cushion. Because I agree, know how to use your card, but if the card has no money and you're charging or whatever else you're doing. So I try and think about it, because I tell people, I said, I remember when I hadn't always been at TCC. I remember working all the jobs to make it there. So you just, you know, that person, that life, one check away, one situation away. I'd rather tool you with how do I make you better to get more income? And then at the same time, make sure you understand the budgeting so that you can build the cushion, so that you're not taking the cushion out every week because, hey, this has come up and you don't really have one. So just a point. Yeah.
Well, it seems like one thing we were talking about is, you know, how women, you know, if they're entrepreneurs, you know, how do you move up what you're already doing to make more money?
Yeah.
But like, what are some other things? Like, you know, and then we sort of talked about getting into fields that have good pay.
Well, so here's the thing.
And they got made non-traditional women jobs.
You never go into a job thinking you're going to be in that same spot. I remember I was an OPS employee at Workforce, and I asked the CEO, what does it take to get to your spot? What did I do? I became CEO. But it was because I was looking at, you know, it was looking at the more, you know, it's the what. So don't go into any job thinking that this is the place. It's what are all these steps, and then how do you get there? I used to, even in that spot, look at, you know, I go online and look at the positions that I had not worked in yet, but saw what the skills were. What did they need? What education criteria? You know, I tell people, you know, for example, at TCC, you know, there's only one spot there. It's, you know, the next one is the president, right? I didn't have a doctorate. Okay, what did I do? In the pandemic, I went back to school, get a doctorate. You know, so it's like, how do you make sure that you're preparing for the next? And so please, I mean, I looking at your resume, talking to people that are in the space, I certainly don't mind people reaching out directly, say, hey, what do you see? What, you know, because, you know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Speak with people that are in the space that can tell you. I promise you, there's a lot of people that care about investing and empowering other women. Yeah.
And I want to piggyback on that because obviously we're in community. Obviously we're a little bit more visible in community, right? We've done some things, we've gotten some victories, we've done some other things that wasn't victorious, right? But women are reaching out to women and saying, I see you, how can you help me? I think we have to build a culture where we respect the value of those that are becoming, us that have become. There's an ugly, y'all shaking y'all head. We don't have to deal with us. All right. Because when you talk about equity and opportunity, sometimes that mentorship, whether you got a black man, a white man, or somebody else in power, they are not intimidated by the woman they're trying to help. But sometimes as women, we are intimidated by each other and we don't help each other. We don't give what is obviously a capability to help that next woman get to the next place. And we've got to stop that. That I feel is more regressive than anything. And so when you get to the point where a Kim, who is gone from OPS to CEO, she had to have somebody that was there that did not feel intimidated by her pursuit, did not feel intimidated by what she brought to the table and were willing to invest what they knew to get her there. If we could deal with that culture in women,
On fire every day. Right.
but I just want to make sure we put that, because we need to deal with us. And as a women wins, I hope, nurturing it, but we need to really deal with that undercurrent, because that is entirely regressive.
Why don't you speak of that with scarcity? Because you taught me that word. I mean, I've heard it, but just not coming from a place of scarcity. Because that makes you more afraid to collaborate.
It absolutely does. We've all heard the terms, the crabs in a barrel, us being afraid. We look around our workplace and we say, well, there's 2 women that are leaders and have these types of positions. So that means there are only spots for 2 women. So I have to keep mine, right? But it's a mindset shift. I want to give credit to Barbara, to Kellyati, to all of the women organizations, the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, to all the women organizations that are helping us make that shift, right? I guess for me, from personal experience, I had to years ago, because I was the kid that was like, girl power. So I've always been the same. But I had to start saying to myself, those are all positions. They are not positions held by a certain gender, race, ethnicity, or background. What does it take to get to that position? Do I want to be there, and why? And then start framing what I learn, what I do around that conversation. To me, it all starts internal. Because that is really the only thing you can control, right? You can't control who they're going to promote. You can't control who they're going to invest in, but you can be prepared. And right now, unfortunately, we have to be very prepared, because us walking into the room doesn't make us typical, doesn't make us traditional. So sometimes it feels like we have to be that much more prepared. And that's why forums like this are so important, is joining together. What we hope to create here is a space where you can say, I don't know the answer to this question, and I don't have to be afraid of asking it, because no one's going to look at me like I'm any less competent or capable because I had to ask the question. And when we all start kind of sharing with each other, hey, you know what? I'm making this much. If you find a way that you could if you're leaving a company, make sure people know, like, I was making this much. If your colleague is in the same position, it's just that transparency that we're not used to. But I know it's not an easy answer. So that scarcity mindset is not an easy answer, other than something that you just simply have to work through. Is there anything that you would add to that? Because this is totally from my perspective.
So I work in a pretty male-dominated field, and the company I retired from, was proud of the fact they had 25% women investment advisors. That was industry leading.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
Less unequal.
Less unequal.
But I have to say, the good thing about working in the investment industry, I get paid just what the men get paid, because it's a sales job. And the sales, so you do too.
Yes, I do.
So I mean, there's
maybe more.
if you sell more, if she sells more,
if I price it, yeah, absolutely. We go.
But I mean, I think maybe that's part of this conversation too, to take it a little bit full circle, is, what makes us more equal is getting equal pay. Well, how do we do that? I mean, we all do equal work, maybe more than, but finding a field can make a difference too.
Yes, that's right.
And sales can be kind of a leveler in some respects. Not always, but, that's something else to consider, I guess. I'm doing the same job the guys are. The one thing you said too that I was going to touch on, I think I ask more questions in every meeting than any of the guys ask. Mm-hmm. I do. I also talk more in most of those meetings than a lot of the guys do. But I also confess I don't know in those meetings more than the guys do. But that enables me to get away with talking more, because I'm not seen as a know-it-all, because I'm sitting there asking questions. It's more give and take. It's more collegial. So just saying that is maybe a way for you guys to deal with some of the men in your life, because we all have them. If you're in a job where maybe by talking more, you can ask more questions and get more feedback and show how much you know. I think sometimes we're a little too afraid of being the most talkative person in the room, and don't be shy about it. you know, step forward.
And your perspective is valuable.
Yes.
Like your perspective from where you stand, from what you know, is valuable in all those conversations.
Yeah, so I'm sort of coming down to, we're kind of drilling it down to two things, is
Mhm.
that there's branches of it, but it's like, how do we make sure that women have pay equity or make more money? And then once you have the money, that you make it work for you.
Yeah.
In a good way. So there's some comments over
Yeah.
here.
I really appreciate this conversation and really admire all of you. But I know it's illegal in the state of Florida to talk about race, but I think that we have to talk. I think we can't lump all women into one. So when we were talking about how women who get in charge don't look behind them to see how to make it an easy path, I think we also need to recognize that white women are getting up there first, and that they're also part of the problem about looking back to see who else they can lift up. And then even when you're talking about pay disparity, it's still white women that are making the upper end of that range, even though it's unequal and horrible, it's still the upper end. And that Black women and Hispanic women are still lower on that scale. So I recognize the state of Florida doesn't want us to talk about it, but we have to.
I want to add to that as well. I deal with a lot of diverse couples and people. So I was sitting with my realtor in Orlando. His wife is white and he's Black. And what they do, they just for the fun of it, they apply for things and they say they're white to see how the outcome would be. And then when they say they're Black, it's totally different. It is so much different. So it's okay to play with it and bring it to the table. Like you said, it's not enough of emphasis or exposing what is happening, you know.
You might get arrested.
Only in Florida.
City Hall.
I know we were talking about knowledge and financial education, but to me the thing is you can give people knowledge. Knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is king.
Yeah.
So even though we give it knowledge, we have to teach people how to apply the knowledge that
Correct.
it is. And even though we talking to women, I believe the best place for us to go is in the school system, because we grew up with our life. Basically, our parents teach us to go to school, get a good education, to get a good job, so that we can get a loan to purchase a house, or we can get a loan to purchase a car, or we can get a loan to even study. When they can teach us, hey, go to school, get a good education, but be a visionary, be a strategist. Think outside the box, because the only way you can actually be a CEO or a big boss or a conglomerate is if you be an inventor, if you have ideas that somebody else don't have. Teach them how to use their passion and their ability to become something or to be a need that the people need, because we all have a story. We all have something that somebody's willing to learn from us. We all have something to sell. But what do we do? Do we have somebody that is going to teach us, how do I bring this out to sell? How do I bring this out? How do I monetize this skill with this gift that God has given me?
That's true. Very good.
Thank you all for this conversation. It's been great. And shout out to Kelly, because we need more of that as well when we talk about women and financial well-being. And you guys touched on it earlier, but I really have a question about our net work being our net worth, right? So when you talk about collaboration versus competition, what are some things you would recommend for somebody who is struggling with finding that net worth in order to get better and be more financial well?
So I wanted to touch on that, but then I shut up because I was talking too much. I'm watching myself, y'all. Women are reaching out. White women, Black women, brown women, yellow women. Women are reaching out to other women. Let me just make that very clear. Whether the reach up is being caught by a hand, that's where the issue is, right? I can show you 4 in the last week, young women that have said, I need a mentor. I need somebody I could just sit down with, chart a path, figure it out, right? Are we grabbing the hands that are reaching up? Do we have enough bandwidth to catch all the hands that are reaching up?
And that's the conversation.
That's the conversation right there, right? And there's no, I'm sorry. Let me stop. Go ahead, baby. Go. You might finish my thought. Go ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, owning my part as a woman, and I'm half Spanish. My dad's side Spanish. So maybe I got the advantage of, the blonde hair thing from my mom Scandinavian side. But my kid's dad, I'll tread lightly, who's a school board attorney. Now I put myself through college and bought my own first townhouse by myself. I rolled quarters. But when I was going for a job and being offered, I think $13 an hour, my kid's dad, who was an attorney, sat me down and said, "You are not advocating for yourself. You were a reading specialist in Gadsden County. You taught at Florida High, the little ones. You taught teachers how to teach hands-on science. You've helped me in appellate litigation. You were just offering this little bit of money they're throwing at you." And I had to really own that. I had to really own my own fear as almost 55-year-old, but this was 15 years ago, of standing up for myself and believing that what I brought to the table had value. So he really challenged me to own that and to step up to the table and say, I bring something of value, and I'm not just going to say it's not valuable. And he said, let's be honest, as a school board attorney in 2 counties, if you had not have been, I have to do this as a volunteer, it's a ministry, it's my heart. If we had been stepping up to the table, and that's why we've got to work on this. You wouldn't have 28 kids in class, and I worked for $24,000 a year in the 90s as a teacher. And that's just so awesome. At first I'm like, yes, I am, but no, he was totally right. No, I wasn't.
Can I say something about that too? One of her mentors, it sounds like, was a guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to look for a guy mentor if they're going to help you. All you want is the help. Go to the person that will give you the most help, regardless of race, sex, creed, whatever. Go to the person that will give you the most help.
Thanks for letting me share.
Awesome. No, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Like now, I think it's going to end up being a running joke on Women Wednesdays. I always end up saying, we need a part 2. We're running out of time. I want to make sure. I mean, we have so many notes left, but I want to make sure that as we start thinking about ending today, that we have some takeaways that anybody watching or here in the room. What are a few takeaways from today that we want them to remember when we think about financial literacy and well-being? Maybe it's a first step towards being banked. Maybe it's a first step towards owning versus renting. We talked about a lot of different things today, but what is a first step?
Or asking for a raise.
Or negotiating with an investor, whatever it may be. What is one thing that they can start with today?
I think I'd probably say just the power of each other, not just the power of one, but the power of each other, because whether that's resources, whether that's mentoring, it really is, are you, the person that's needing the help, or do you know the network that's out there for you? Do you know the support that's out there for you? And are you willing to take the next step? And for those that are on the other side of that, are you willing to invest in someone else? Because again, the tools are great, but people have lots of questions. They're living day to day and, check to check. It's not they've got to have something else that gets them to the tools even before we get to the banking piece of it. Yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think probably the biggest thing on the whole financial literacy side of it is good old budgeting. I mean, we haven't really touched on it much, but if you have a budget that enables you to save that $10 a month, then you can invest. Then you can invest in yourself. Then you can take that next step, and you'll just do better and better and better. So if you know your budget, then you'll know what that raise might mean. You'll know where you can deploy that new money the best. Money is a tool. It doesn't buy happiness. Money is a tool. And, I think if you know your budget, that's the biggest thing to make all the other pieces fall in place. So.
I agree with A and B and being C. I just think that people have to start with looking around and finding where is the one I can start with today. Who's going to tell me what I need to know? Where can I go to learn what I need to know? Because I can give you a lot of conceptual everything, right? But I don't know how to budget. I don't write stuff on paper. Like grandma, I know how much flour to put in there by looking at the cup. I don't know this, right? And so somebody gonna have to hold my hand, right? Right? Somebody gonna have to hold my hand, Kathy. All right? And say, look, baby, let me commit to you. Let me commit to you for 6 months. I got you, baby. Let me commit to you. That's serious. Let me commit to you for 6 months. If you want to stay with me and you don't feel abused, you can stay another 6 months. All right? Almost like the military, right? But I think that's the first step.
I think it's the first step, but if you're on the other side of it of wanting to help and needing to help, I tell people, because I've mentored to death, I said, but I'm gonna match your motivation. Hey! If you're motivated, I'm matching it. If you're knocking on my door because you say, hey, I want to put this on my resume, and can I put you as a reference? I think, no, I want life-changing for you. And that it requires an investment. So matching motivation.
So call Kim. Yeah.
All right.
No, but that I think that we all understand that just like you got a daddy that could tell you ain't matching your value, you need somebody to tell you, right? It's not enough for the internet to tell you. You need somebody to sit you down and say, baby, you are worthy. You are worth it. You have value, and I'm going to commit to you. If you got the motivation, baby, I got the information. What we going to do? All right? And let's make this happen. That's the first step today.
And I would say give equal footing to mentoring and collaboration.
Yeah.
Because mentoring is a power of one. And again, sometimes someone you reach out for some mentoring, you mentioned bandwidth. That person may not have the bandwidth you need. But if you do keep getting into collaborative communities, a mentor, again, power of one, collaboration is exponential. It's a power of many, many, many. And if the more you get with other people, you find the universe will lead you to who you need, and somehow something will happen.
Sometimes it is just a matter of somebody saying one sentence to you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever been in something like this or at church or wherever you are, and somebody just touches your life for one moment.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And you go, like, I guess Oprah would call them aha moments, but you're like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. So it doesn't have to be a monthly or weekly call.
It's a puzzle. They need this. I'm going to match them. So telling the universe what you want. I know you wanted to say something.
Okay, so the name of that lady that helps you prepare your credit, her name is Jacqueline Calloway.
She did.
And the name of her business is
What?
Credit RX.
Huh? Oh, she's left. She left, but she came here, and I thought she just did a great job. She was one of the good ones.
Well, I
She
think
did. Yeah.
Can I just say one short thing? I think on mentorship, I think you need to know if you need a mentor or a coach, because there's a difference.
Yep.
Because you may be really needing a coach and you ask for a mentor and you may not get to where you want to reach. Because a coach doesn't necessarily have or was in the area that you are in, but a mentor is somebody that you can actually see yourself being. But a coach is just somebody who can stand on the sideline telling you what to do. So if you ask him for a mentor, just make sure that I want to be like this person, or I can see myself doing what this person is doing, or you just need somebody to just say, hey, you can do it, just at the sideline, just giving you those ones.
Yeah, and I found out there's something I know we gotta. there's something I always pound on, and it's something called lean startup model. I say it all the time, but it applies whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. But just take a moment to read about lean startup model, because there's so many things that you can try. That you can do it in a way that it doesn't cost a lot of money, but there's things you can try in your life, and you just try and you test it and you see, is this working? How do I iterate? How do I change? So a lot of self-learning can also happen too.
And it sounds like a lot has happened today. I know we want to keep going, but I have to be the meantime keeper. So I'm also, I wear a lot of hats for Women Wednesdays. Meantime keeper is one of them. But I think to wrap it up, start somewhere. Like, we can be overwhelmed by the big picture. I don't make enough money. What am I going to do? Start somewhere. I don't know how to budget. Start somewhere, right? How much did you spend last week? Let's start there. What are you want to get promoted? Start somewhere. I mean, don't be afraid of the big picture. Let's just kind of drill it down to that first step. And also a first step can be continuing to join us here at Women Wednesday. We encourage you to come here and get the answers. And if we can't find the answer, we're gonna find someone who does. All right. So did you ladies have a great time today? And gentlemen, we're going to end the live stream, but we're not ending right here in person at Domi Station. So if you didn't join us in person today, you can join us another time. Barbara, do you want to tell us about next week before we end the live stream?
Right, I do. So I want to say we're going to be joining with Kim at TCC Workforce Development. So it's actually a longer Women Wednesday. So we're going to go to the AMTC. We're going to be seeing the facilities. Can you sort of explain it, the facilities that we're going to see?
Yeah, so we oftentimes talk about, the next step. So this is about non-traditional trades, exposing women to it. And I will tell you, one program in particular, the commercial vehicle driving, there's nothing like that program where we've seen women go from, an 8-week program to $80,000, unemployed part-time to $80,000. So truck driving is just one of those spaces, but the same can happen when you think about manufacturing and cybersecurity, things that you don't normally think about. So we'll get a chance to explore that, do some hands-on, maybe visualize yourself doing something else. So that's what, will be a full conversation, but, again, hands-on
So we're starting in the
presentation
morning
too.
from 9 to 11.
Sure.
Tours of the facilities, then from 11 to 1, it's going to be lunch and discussion. With a lot of people. So to really try to come, but also if you don't think, oh, that's not for me. Is it for your daughter? Is it for your sister? Is it for your friend? Think about, who might be looking to have an opportunity in a different sort of space, and know that there's just going to be an army of women that are going to be supporting and wanting to see you succeed. And that is to thinking about the collective power of all of us in here. If we just help each other and help all women, we could be superpowers, and it's not even going to be that hard. So thank you all so very much for coming, and I think we can go ahead and end the live.
Yes, thank you for joining us on live. For everyone here, we have to do, this is going to be a very large group picture. But if you saw the one, was it last week? It was also a very large group picture, so we can do it. We'll all gather up front here, and we'll do all of that, and then whomever, please continue to ask questions, make connections. You don't have to rush off, but thank you so much for being here today. Let's take this picture.
Yeah, let's take the picture.
All right. So where do we go?
If you guys come forward.